Welcome back, everyone, to another thrilling episode of Thrive Your Program with Coach 2J. This is your host, Jeremy Jones, and today we're going to talk about going for a big score, but keeping your form legit because it is a competition context, and this is a workout that can get a little bit sloppy, as well as some handstand push-up progressions. So when it comes to, and this is for most competition days, we want people to go for their best score, but we do want people to keep that form legit, right? So when people do a really hard workout and they're trying to beat their friends or really trying to PR, or they're in some sort of competition like the Open or something like that, they'll talk about the points of performance, getting from point A to point B, standing up completely with the power clean or locking out on the push-up or whatever. And the problem is that that ignores proper technique, right? So it doesn't really matter how you get from point A to point B. And while that's true from a judging perspective, that is not what we want from a coaching perspective. And so we still want to make sure that we want to get a good score, but we might get 1 or 2% less on our score, or in this case, a few reps or a round less on our score. But the form is better. That is how we want to approach our training. Unless there is money on the line, or it's your career, or someone's life is on the line, you don't want to sacrifice form or sacrifice the risk of injury just to get a better score. What happens is that, for example, just to use the Chief for an example, if somebody gets sloppy with this one to try to get a better score, next time they do this workout, they're going to have to do that again to try to beat their old score, and then their next other competition workouts, and then other workouts, and they're always sacrificing proper movement quality unless you're watching them like a hawk, just to get that extra rep or shave off a few seconds. And we know that that's a recipe for people getting injured. And so that's really what we want to avoid, is that on days like this, say, hey, we want you to go for a big score, but you still have to move well. So, break the reps up, choose proper scaling, keep your form legit, even though we're pushing ourselves into those higher intensity ranges. But that's not a license to get sloppy, and because it's bad. It's bad for lots of reasons I just mentioned. All right, so we've got our warm-up here with our little barbell complex, and we're doing some shoulder warm-up activation stuff. Just make sure we're thinking about this because we're doing a lot of push-ups today, but also the front rack with the power cleans, and then of course we're warming up with handstand push-up progressions. Just as a quick review, my favorite handstand push-up progressions are things like the just the downward dog style. Hands on the floor, even just holding statically, right? And we're just looking for fully open shoulders, right? And then of course the next one would be to try to do some pressing, where we go through some partial range of motion pressing. Now, if you can set people up if you have the higher parallel bars, that'll allow them to bring their head a lot more through range of motion wise, and it actually makes it a little bit easier because it picks them up higher. This is also a really good option. And then of course the next option would be to have them on some sort of box, and they would put their knees on the box, right? So they're going here. The key here is when they're doing these, we want to make sure that the line of action is straight with the body, right? So you should come up with a PVC pipe and hold it so that they're not doing a push-up. So their head isn't moving up this way and they're pressing with their chest. We want to make sure that they're pressing in the proper line of motion, and they're going to keep working their hands back and bringing their nose as close to the box. Now, they can actually use their hip flexors to pull themselves up on this as kind of an assistance, but obviously that is not the intent, right? If they're using their hip flexors to help them, maybe they've made it a little too hard, right? The hip flexors shouldn't get too involved. Then the next progression is to have the box, and then they're going to put their toes on the box, right? So it's basically that downward dog position, and then we still want their body in that straight position. And again, they're pushing in the correct line of action here, and again working toward getting their nose close to the box. Now mobility might become an issue here, but it still usually works pretty good. They can bend their knees a little bit if they have to. Now when you're doing this one, the next phase up from here is actually to bring one leg. I didn't draw it right. Is to bring one leg up higher. So I can draw this again. And they can stick their leg up in the air like this. And so now all but this leg is being their weight is being supported by everything but this one leg that's kind of has some of their balance here, and it also gives them a point of contact. It doesn't have to be straight up, but that's going to add more difficulty. This is a lot more approachable than doing things like wall walks or kicking up to a wall for a lot of people. So I do like this version. Now, when they're able to do both toes in the box, or they're doing this version fairly easily, then we can talk about doing the shoulder screening test. And again, we like to have people hold 2 dumbbells, combined weight equal to about half their body weight, and they need to strict press them up and then hold it there for 60 seconds. So for a 200-pound man, that would be 50 pounds, or you could probably get away with 45 pounds in each hand. Strict press up, hold locked out as best they can for 60 seconds. If their elbows are bent and they can't lock their shoulders out, it's like, hey, look, we just need to work on your mobility. Why don't you do these other variations, or just do strict presses with dumbbells until you get that shoulder issue straightened out. Once they've done that, then we can start talking about doing wall walks, which you guys should know is where we have them face face away from the wall. I didn't draw that very well, but and they're going to walk their feet up the wall, and then that way they don't, until they can get fairly close to nose to the wall. Getting your nose to the wall with your facing it this way is super sketchy, because people will fall over like a tree getting cut down, and then usually they don't know how to come out of this safely. So it's pretty dangerous. I don't like to have people go all the way up, but what happens is if they can get to where they're at a decent angle. I'm just going to draw, but I'm going to draw like a straight line, and they can get here where a lot of the weight's going to be on their hands. They've got those open shoulders. That's where we only need to get to where they're 3 or 4 feet away from the wall here. That's going to be fine. And then people who can do that competently, we can start having them kick up to the wall. So we want to have them kick up. They want to talk about placing their hands, and before they just straight kick up, what you actually want to do is have them do one leg at a time, right? So they're going to have one leg down low, and they're going to swing that other leg up like this, and then just work on controlled bouncing, right? So the weight of this leg is going to help swing them up. They're going to jump off the supporting leg, and they're going to balance and then come back down. They're not going to go straight for the wall first time. They're going to come up a little higher and then down. And of course, you should be spotting them when they do this, come up, and they're working on landing softly, and say, look, I don't even really care if you kick up to the wall. I just want you to kick up and come down softly, because I don't want you to slam that foot down and bang your toe. I've had people actually break their toe coming down off the wall improperly. That was 15 years ago, but but it can happen. So having them just get comfortable in this one leg down, one leg up position, and kicking up, and then have them kick up a little higher and a little higher, and eventually that foot will hit the wall. Now, if they do this correctly and you coach correctly, that foot should just very lightly kiss the wall and they're up, right? It shouldn't slam into the wall. If they're slamming into the wall, they haven't really mastered this skill yet, or they haven't gotten competency in the skill yet. So you kick, you kick up each time, and then of course, then you're gonna get them in that position and let them hang out there, and then it's just a handstand hold against the wall, right? Don't even worry about handstand push-ups. They might need to adjust their hands, come off the wall again, one leg at a time. Maybe they go with a little bit wider hands, changing the rotation of the wrists or whatever, so that they might be uncomfortable for their wrists. And then once they kick up, then they can start working on kind of coming down a few inches and back up, and of course you can stack a few ab mats underneath them, so they can have some way to check depth and actually catch them. It might be good to even have this padding underneath them, even if they're just kicking up, just in case something crazy were to go wrong and they come down. They have something to absorb some of the impact. And then of course we start working on going deeper and deeper, taking away one ab mat, touching their head, working on all the proper form technique stuff, and then down, right? So that's how you get people to do the handstand push-ups. One of the warnings you got to watch out for is if somebody hasn't exhibited all those other stages before, you'll have some super fit dudes, for example, or people just kick up to the wall just because they saw someone else do it and they have no business doing it, and they fall and they land on their head and neck. And I've had that happen without, I wasn't able to stop them before, and they just looked so easy, so they just went and tried it, and they didn't realize how difficult it is to do that. So, one of the things I like to do especially with big classes or with people I'm not familiar with, is to have just bring out those boxes and just have people do the knee on the box and the toes on the box just to warm up. Say, okay, guys, we're going to warm up with these, work on our techniques, see how our shoulders are feeling, and everybody has to do that before anybody goes to the wall, even your more advanced people. And you can have, your more advanced people do the one leg on the box and one leg straight up, and that will kind of be the movement screen to make sure they don't go onto the wall until they're ready, right? So unless you know someone has deficit strict handstand push-ups and super advanced, they can go do it, but everybody else has to start on those boxes. Wow, that took a long time. I'm going to speed through the rest of this because we're already about 10 minutes into the video. So the Chief, classic workout, 5 cycles, 3 minutes of 3 minutes, 1 minute rest between cycles. And for this one, just have people start where they left off instead of starting at the power cleans. It just makes the math easier at the end when they're going to count rounds. So just, if they finish, it's however many rounds and 3 push-ups, the next round they just finish off the next 3 push-ups and then go into the air squats. Just do that one. And what's great about this workout, it's a lot of small rounds so people can keep moving. Just make sure that they are moving, again, with the legit form. They're not getting sloppy with these. You'll notice that we are doing some more push-ups and squat type movements as well as pull-ups in preparation for Murph that's going to be coming down the pipe here in a couple months. So just, you might want to point that out to people that, hey, like, we're doing this, like, because we're also going to be doing Murph later, so just keep that in mind. And this happens to be similar rep schemes, right, that we would see in something like Murph. And then I didn't add a cash out here. There shouldn't be one. It's a long enough workout. But you also might want to mention that, hey, this is another version of a hero workout, but instead of honoring a specific hero, it's honoring the position of the Chiefs, which is a really important position in the U.S. Navy. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot, and thrive on.